Hi there, this is Eric Keller for Otoy. In this video, we're going to take a look at the Octane integration into Unity. And we're also going to explore this demo scene, which you can download if you want to follow along, or just use to explore some of the features of Octane in Unity. So let's start by taking a look at the scene itself. So I'm going to close the Octane preview window here. And let's take a look at the scene. So as you can see, the scene is kind of a nice, pleasant living room scene. So we have a little TV, you got a furnace, we got a window, some lights coming in. We also have some lights on the wall and some other lights and an open door and kind of a nice little dining set. You don't have a roof, so a lot of the light in the OctaneRender is actually coming from an HDR environment. So let's add a light and see what it looks like when we're using Octane. What I want to do is I want to add a new light and just put it outside in the hallway here so that we have a nice little bit of light kind of coming in through the doorway. Give it kind of something that looks kind of intriguing. I'm going to go to the game object menu and choose light, and let's just create a point light. That should work just fine. And here is my point light. You can see it's lighting up the scene in Unity, but I want to stick it outside the door, so I'll stick it over here and maybe position kind of like that. And I have Octane loaded. You always want to make sure that you've installed Octane and that it's also loaded. So if I go to the Octane menu and choose settings, you can see that it is loaded. If this said load Octane, I would need to press the button, wait a couple moments for it to load, and then it would be available for use. So now that that's loaded, I can go into the hierarchy here. I'm going to select PBR render target, which is kind of our render settings for Octane within Unity, and go into the inspector window and just press render. Let's see what happens. It's going to take a few moments to compile. Sometimes you'll see this will be gray. Other times you'll see that it kind of has like the background lighting, but you won't see any geometry. If that happens, just be patient. It's just compiling the scene and converting it for Octane. Once it's loaded, you'll see it start rendering, and there we go. And we can see we have the nice light coming through the doorway here. It's a bit on the bright side, but it looks kind of cool. So if I start to rotate the view, you can see it updates. And then I can select the light here in the hierarchy, and if I want to adjust its settings, I can go into the inspector window. So for example, if I want to lower the intensity to say like 0.25, make it a little bit more subtle, you can see that the light does respond here when I'm rendering with Octane. Let's set it back up to 1, and we'll change the light color, maybe make it a little bit warmer. That's kind of a green light, which is disturbing, but a warm light is nice. Green light coming through the doorway usually indicates something horrible is about to happen, but we want to keep the scene nice and happy and cheerful, so we'll make it kind of an orange light. So as you can see, Unity lights work very well in Octane, but there's other ways to create lights within your Octane scene using Octane emissive shaders. So let's take a look at how we can do that. Okay, so let's have a little bit of fun here. I'm going to turn this lamp on so that it's emitting light. Rather than sticking a Unity light within the lamp, I'm going to use an Octane emissive material. So let's move this aside for a second. This is the light that's in the hallway. Let's select the lamp itself. I'm going to press F just to focus on it so we can zoom in. And if I look down into the lamp, you can see it does have some light bulb geometry there that I can work with. If you take a look in the hierarchy, all of the geometry in the scene is within this group called Scene Geo. So I'm going to expand this, and the geometry that we're looking at, this lamp is called Couch Lamp because it's next to the couch, and it consists of the geometry of the lamp itself, and then this bulb is a separate piece of geometry. So I'm going to select the couch lamp bulb here and then go over to the inspector, and we can see here's all the information on the geometry itself, and then we also have a little rollout here for editing the material that's currently applied. So currently we have bulb glow applied to the bulb, and it is a Unity standard material. So I'm going to set this to Octane PBR override, which makes it an Octane material. So now I want to edit the properties of the material, and in order to do that, I need to go into the Octane VR node graph editor. So let's press View Source. This opens up the node graph editor. So we can see here's another version of our Octane preview here. And then down here we have the node graph editor. This tab here is called bulb glow. So everything we do within the node editor here relates to the material that's applied to the bulb. So what I want to do is I want to create an Octane material. So I'm going to right click, pull up the node creator menu and choose materials diffuse. And then I'm going to connect the diffuse material to material out by dragging a little wire here from the bottom to the top of material out. So this just connects the Octane material to the Unity scene. This is where we actually edit the material itself. And what we're going to do is pretty basic. I'm going to select the material, go into the node inspector and go down to emission and turn on texture emission. So you can use black body emission if you want to use real world values for emission, or you can use texture emission if you want to use a color or a specific texture. So let's use texture emission because it's really easy to work with. You can see that immediately the light looks very, very bright. I'm going to turn on surface brightness, which means that the amount of light emitted by the surface is based on the scale of the surface itself. So with it off, it tends to be extremely bright. With it on, it's relative to the size of the surface. And now what I can do is I can edit, say, the texture and the power. So the texture here is kind of a dark gray. Let's make this sort of more of a warmer color. And I'm going to, we kind of got a lot of windows here. Let's rotate out the view so we can see from over here. So you can see it's emitting this kind of orange light at the moment. Go back into views, go back into the node graph editor. I'm going to select diffuse material and maybe let's make this a little bit brighter. And let's set this to 250, so it's very bright. Give it a few seconds to update, but you can see now it's emitting light into the scene. I'm going to close the node graph editor and just zoom out a little bit and then give it a few seconds to update so we can see what our light looks like. Let's take a look at it from, say, this view right here. So it's definitely a very warm color on there. Probably edit that a little bit more, but you get the general idea of how you can go in and edit lights. As you're looking through this scene, take a look at how these lights are set up over here, and you can kind of compare them with the way this light is set up as well. Let's take a look at the PBR render target. Within the inspector, I'm going to expand post-processing and turn on enable so we can add some bloom to the scene. We can kind of go crazy with it. That's a bit much, but maybe just a little bit, just to give it kind of a nice overall soft glow. So hopefully that inspires some creative ideas on what you can do within the scene using Octane for Unity. In the next video, let's take a look at some ways we can play with the materials that are in this scene as well.